Hello everybody, it's Andrew's Weather Predictions here. If you do hear a background noise, my dad is running my snow thrower right now and just running it out of gas, so that's why if you hear a background noise. Just a disclaimer, but today we're going to be talking about kind of the next week's weather pattern. Where we're going to be mainly focusing on a cold core severe weather event for this area. And yes, I'm actually going to be impacted by this if the models can stay consistent. Talk about that. We'll also be talking about some more longer ranged stuff. Let me get out of this quickly. Talk about more longer ranged stuff. Um, Potential severe weather across Dixie and maybe into the Mid-Atlantic region. We'll have to see about that, but it's basically just an overview. We really don't have much going on right now, so that's a good thing. I haven't updated it since a while, but yeah, there's really not much happening right now as of 1742 UTC. We have some alerts in the west, some alerts up here for fires, but other than that, it's just not really that active. Look on here to the overview here. Day 1, we're expecting really not much to happen. Like I said, maybe winter weather in the west. Day 2, isolated thunderstorms along the dry line. Day 3, a low end severe event with potentially a slight risk being issued. We'll have to see. And some showers and thunderstorms surrounding that. And if you look into past that, see here's the areas getting impacted. Florida's probably going to see some thunderstorms. Boom, Tuesday comes along. This is a 12Z surface analyst. You have a warm front, a low pressure, and a cold front. This warm sector is expected to advect northward, bringing in some instability into these areas in here. I'll show you a thing. I'll show you a plot I made in a second. Wednesday, not an isolated. We could have a severe weather event across this area. Thursday, it's probably going to shift into this area. And then Friday, it's probably going to be more of a mid-Atlantic to northeast event. Who knows? Maybe some places up here could get some. Wednesday through Friday has a lot of uncertainty, as well as Saturday and Sunday. So those periods are really uncertain. But over the next 7 days, I'm likely to see somewhere between nearly an inch of rain. The south is likely to get hammered. Iowa, Nebraska, and these areas are likely to get hammered. No consistent rain areas, but let's get into it. So we have no risks of severe weather until day 3. We have a marginal risk. I do expect this to get expanded a little bit to the south and maybe a little bit to the north and a little bit to the east and maybe a small slide gets put in, but I don't think we're going to have that happen. See here, mainly wind gusts and hail, maybe some brief supercell structures that try to rotate. Then on day 4 through 8, we start to see the SPC talking about potentially some severe weather across Dixie and the Ohio Valley and the Mid-Atlantic, but there's a lot of uncertainty. Here's the analogs. They're really not showing much until, what, day 3 probably? If it's going to load. Okay, so here's day 3. It's taking its sweet time to load today, jeez. Okay, so day 3, there's your analogs. Day 4, it's going to take a little bit here to load, which sucks. You see here, day 4, the analogs are really like in Iowa. I don't know why, but they are. That's probably going to shift into Illinois tomorrow, but Dixie stuff, you know. Let's just look at day 7. I don't know, day 6. Oh, good glory, 75%. That's significant returns. So we could have a pretty significant event. I believe this is their Friday next week. We'll have to see. Let's see. Oh, that's it. Well, okay. Let's first. I already have the name pulled up right on kind of the track of what we want to be. So this is Wednesday. Let's first go to Tuesday though, just to first kind of check a look on some things. So early morning, we're probably gonna get some thunderstorms and showers to kind of lift along with that warm sector there. That's pretty much your forcing there. Let's take a look at 0Z. So anywhere like along and south of the low's like right in here. We're gonna have some 60 dew pockets in here. It's mainly gonna be a pretty low moisture event. Pretty marginal to slight worthy, as I said. Nothing significant, but we probably will see some isolated supercells fire along the dry line. If I take a sounding here, it is relatively capped at the surface, but if this cap conversion can break down and the storm isn't elevated over the cap, I could definitely see an isolated tornado out of this. It is a bit linear, especially if you get further up, but it's fine. Hodograph. This is like a northwest flow of it with that hodograph there. Interesting. A lot of helicity there. Some energy. But as we move along here, you see your lower level wind field, your kinematics here. Widespread 30 plus knots with some 50 knot wind energy across eastern Texas, eastern Oklahoma. We move along here. Here's 18Z. This is probably 1 o'clock Central Time, and boom, it's all across this area in here now. If you end up looking at your dew points here, you might be like, if you're looking at the dew points, these are low dew points. Well, we're going to be getting a classic cold core event with this. You're going to have a low pressure here. You're going to have kind of this warm front here. Or, not warm front. You're going to have a warm front probably like here. And then you're going to have that cold front stretching down further to the south. Oh, I didn't mean to draw it with blue, but you get the thing. Let me load AWIPS back up, and I'm going to show you something I made on there. But while that loads, here's 21Z. You see here a lot more moisture comes up, 0Z even more, and we're going to zoom into the Midwest sector. Specifically, we're going to zoom in to the Midwest sector, like I said there. So, let's look at the precip here. So at this point, I am starting to get hit with some thunderstorms here as this cold low pushes northward. Looks like the storm mode is probably going to be low top supercells as they fire along the low pressure here at around 18Z. Take a sounding in front of us here. You see, it's pretty decent. You don't have as much helicity as you want, and it is pretty darn linear in this area, but the hodograph is fine. You have enough instability and cape to do have a risk of severe storms. Check north of that convection. You see here, you have less instability because you're pretty much right along that warm front there, and I gotta stop this here in a second, but I'm gonna just north of St. Louis, Missouri here. You see, this sounding is a tornado-producing sounding in a classic cold core look. Still loading up. You're going to have this thing on the top of your screen for a little bit. It's no big deal. It's just what AWIPS does in the beginning when you load it up. It's kind of annoying sometimes, but it is what it is. But you're going to see at 21Z, we start to see the favorable lower level jet energy right in front of these thunderstorms with these 40 knots or so. Okay, with the 40 for 30, 40 knots, and even 50 knots in a small area down here. Oh my gosh, AWIPS, really? Okay. I'm not going to have any more problems with that, but if you look at your surface-based cape, we see here, we got a lot of instability for there being only 53 dew points, and some people are like, what? Well, that's just what a cold core does, and if you look at the middle level temperatures, I believe they're going to be in here. If you look at 500 millibar temperatures, these are extremely cold, and that is because those low pressures just dropping out cold air, and that's gonna really help the instability in the lower to middle levels really just skyrocket. And here's an outlook I made. I gotta load it up here. We're gonna get the cities on here too in a second. This might take a second to load, but we're gonna load up here. I'm gonna open my outlook that I made. Some of these outlooks are not even mine. But that's my outlook right here. Okay, so boom. So I have 21Z potential surface fronts and potential severe weather zones here. Zone 1, this is going to be your Midwest zone here. A brief tornado or two, isolated damaging wind gusts up to 65 miles per hour, and isolated hailstones up to 1.25 inches are possible. The threat is marginal. Now, this threat is marginal mainly due to the fact that it is a conditional threat. If the NAM was to be correct, I'd say this is probably a slight risk with a 5% tornado risk if the NAM were to be correct and if this was on day 1. There's also an isolated risk down to the south with some isolated wind gusts up to 70, maybe a brief tornado and large hail up to 1 inch, but that threat is looking to be a lot lower due to the fact that you have lower wind shear down there. You do have more instability though, so you'll get thunderstorms and some isolated gusty winds, hail. But as you can see, we have a triple point setting up kind of in central Iowa here, and this could give off a threat near Cedar Rapids, Marshalltown. They can maybe see a triple point threat for some isolated severe storms as well, but that's my graphic that I wanted to show. 700 millibars is probably still going to be very cold, I would assume. Yeah, this is still very cold at 700. 850 is probably going to be a bit warmer. Yeah, 850 is a bit warmer, but that's typical. If you look at your helicity at 0 to 3 kilometers, you see a lot of helicity here. I'm gonna take a sounding right in front of the line, kind of right in my area here. Let's take a sounding right here. This is right in my general vicinity. I'm not gonna give my actual location. Okay, that's actually pretty good. I'll take that. Instability is rather marginal, but or cape is rather marginal. Excuse me. The ring cape is also rather marginal, but you do have a lot of lower level lapse rates, middle level lapse rates, kind of steepening. You have surface-based storms, again, low-top supercells. A bit stable at the surface, but that's pretty typical when you're pretty close to a line of thunderstorms. A box HOTO, this will help with tornadic and wind potential here. So this could get off all hazards, even the cape is very low. Let me take a sounding like right by Springfield there. See here, once it loads. Looking like a nice little photograph there. A little bit less instability there, but still, that's favorable. You go back to 21Z, I'm pretty sure you're going to have more favorable soundings, probably like right in here. You'll have a favorable sounding right in front of that line. Yeah, you do have a pretty favorable sounding right in front of that line. 1,000 is stability, 200 SRH, that's good enough. I mean, the photograph is quite small. But now let's go over to the Euro, and we're going to take a look at more middle-ranged stuff. We're going to first look at the kind of the low-pressure systems and different stuff like that. We're not going to look at the MU cape or anything, and then we're going to look at your instantaneous flash rate, because I think a lot of people really like looking at that, and we'll look at the GEFS. If the Euro would load, that would be great. Okay, it's taking its sweet time to load today. As you can see here, here's our first low pressure, bringing the severe storms to Texas, and then up into the Midwest. Then Dixie, we start to get a pressure down here, and there could be some isolated severe weather across these areas on Wednesday if I do end up taking a sounding kind of Florida panhandle there, and I'll take one in Georgia as well. That's a little bit north of the instability axis. Maybe not severe weather. Yep, there's no instability axis, but... Okay, here's where you're going to have instability axis. You get a low pressure all the way up into Michigan, and then you get a pretty darn favorable sounding in Georgia. Very actually favorable. This would be a pretty heightened severe risk if that would occur. Fairly large photograph, 2,000 cape. You do have a pretty stable middle levels, which won't help you, but that can be typical with Dixie. You have a nice little instability pocket in here. You also have surface-based storms and pretty high elevation heights for some thunderstorms, so that'll be enough. You have some veering in the lower levels, but there might be a little bit too much backing, so that could create more of a squall line type thing. 3 cape is nearly 100, so that's favorable. You end up stopping it on 1 hour, on hour 138 here. GFS and GFS pair, they're pretty much disagreeing with where the system is. Let me look at your lower level jet field here. Just look at 850 millibars. Let that load in for a second. Pretty potent 850 millibar wind streak, kind of right in this area here. Really going to be watching that area if this were to be occurring. 500 millibar wind streak here. Again, pretty negatively tilted trough. We have another cutoff low coming in, but that's a pretty negative tilt there. And the middle level support is more over this area than underneath things, so that's probably where you would have your sphere with. That's the leading edge of the middle level support. And if you do like your precip there, once it loads, yeah, you have your precip right in that area I outlined. So let's go back to the forecast loop. It's already loaded, so that's good. Look back here. You see that other low develops in central Illinois. We could have another cold core set up here in central Illinois in this area with that low pressure too that sets up. If there's enough dew points that get up there, who knows? Michigan could also have a cold core set up with this, and then it comes over, brings the northeast severe weather or strong thunderstorm potential, and then we have another low develop. And this low is actually pretty significant. If I end up taking a sounding kind of right in the Mississippi River Valley there, yeah, you end up getting a sounding with 3,500 cape, a good amount of 3 cape, high lapse rates, very high shear, and a well-rounded hodograph there. And yes, the potential hazard type is PDS Tor. There is some veering with heights, so that is favorable. Oh, no cap at the surface, but that is pretty close together, but that's pretty typical though. Large instability access right in that area. As you move along though, this low really starts to develop. The Euro pinpoints a bunch of thunderstorms along it. And then they're sounding here. I'm gonna guess there's gonna be less instability here. That photograph looks a bit wonky there. It's gonna take a second to load, just an FYI. A lot less instability, but still favorable wind shear. Move along here. We see potentially another cold core event in Illinois. There's actually supercell tracks with this area, so that is kind of funny. I was looking at that earlier. Doesn't mean it's going to happen. The Euro typically does that far out. Has a bunch of long-lived supercells, because that's typical Euro. Then it actually shows a northeast severe weather event at around this time, which is funny, too. Probably not going to happen, but still kind of funny. Let's look at the GFS para. This is actually becoming operational on Monday. Or actually, I don't know. We'll look at this for a little bit. We're not going to take too much in depth with it. Actually, it's not going to load. We'll take a little bit with it. We're not going to go long with it though, unless it's not going to load. Okay. Mainly going to be with the GFS para for the other systems. Here's the second system starting to develop. Pretty similar area if you end up taking. Oh wait, this is the 0Z run. I am a dumb butt. Okay. Let's look at the 12Z run. This is the most updated information we have. See here, still cold core. It's been very consistent with that low pressure placement at 18Z. Let's take a sounding right there. Kind of right in between the preset modes there. Very favorable for some wind damage. Not that favorable for tornadoes, but I mean, you would get embedded squall line tornadoes with that for sure. Move along here. Start to see it develops another system. Brings along with it some storms to the south, and then here's a La La Land. It shows a quiet La La Land pattern, which is potentially what's going to happen. Who knows? Oh, let's look at your instantaneous flash rate for everybody out here who likes the Euro. It's not very far out with this run. It's only 38 hours out, so we're going to look at the 0Z. And there's that first system, gets that severe weather in Texas there. Pretty hot, strong storms at that point. Then there's your low-top supercell event across Illinois. Then your severe weather across the Gulf Coast, and then into a large area, actually, at this point. Then the Northeast getting some thunderstorms, and then yet again repeating the pattern. Northeast with more thunderstorms, and then there's the end of the run. Now, I quickly have this this frame stopped right on hour 78 because I want to look at this for the severe weather. You have the low pressure. This is the mean. You have the low right here, and you're probably going to have a warm front kind of spanning out right in through here with this. Then you're going to have that cold front, probably something like that. So that's the mean with the GFS. Here's your ensemble cape. We start to see the ensembles are really starting to agree and pinpoint with the instability axis. Your mean supercell composite, it's 1. Still not too bad though. If you look at your max, and this could actually be trusted at this point, the NAM has a pretty similar solution to this. It has the higher values right in this area, but it has more has an area over here too as well. If I end up not having it stopped on a frame here, and if I end up having it further south here, which I will do the continental United States now, at this point, yep, we do see a little bit more stuff trying to happen here. If we move along here, yep, you see Texas with some potential severe weather. Then here's your event on Wednesday, then Thursday, then Friday, and then Saturday. Then Sunday, Monday. I don't really think Monday's going to do that much. And then this is La La Land, so who knows what's going to happen after that. After Monday, or after Sunday, it's pretty uncertain what's going to happen. So, yeah, but that's going to do it for this one. If you liked the content you enjoyed, I will like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next one.